Hello, my darlings. Mother Raven here with a lovely old story. Now by Harriet Lewis Bradley, The Bringing of the Rose. For certain subjects, one of the most valuable works of reference in all of Berlin was Miss Olivia Valentine's Adressbuch, the contents of which were self-collected, self-tested, and abounded in extensive information concerning hotels and pensions, apartments and restaurants, families offering German home life with the language, instructors, and courses of lecture, doctors, dentists, dressmakers, milliners, the most direct way to Mendelssohn's grave in the Alt-Dreifaltigst Kirchhof, how to find lodgings in Bayreuth during the Wagner Festival, where to stay in the Oberammergau if it happened to be the year of the Passion Play, and so on indefinitely. Miss Valentine herself was a kind-hearted, middle-aged woman who, as a result of much sojourning in foreign lands, possessed an intelligent knowledge of the subjects likely to be of use to other sojourners, and who was cordially ready to share the same according to the needs of the season. If it were November, people came asking in which manner they should take the most profitable advantage of a Berlin winter. If it was approaching spring, they wanted addresses for Paris or Switzerland or Italy. It was March now, and Sunday afternoon. Mr. Morris Davidson sat by Miss Valentine's table, the famous Adressbuch in his hand. "I suppose you don't undertake starting parties for heaven," he said, opening the book. "Ah, here it is. Himmel and Hölle. I might have known it. You are so thorough." "If you read a little further," remarked Miss Valentine, "you will see that Himmel and Hölle is a German game." "Oh, yes, I remember now. We played it at our pension. It's a game where you say thou to the you people and you to the thou people, and are expected to address strange ladies whom you are meeting for the first time as Clara and Charlotte and Wilhelmina with most embarrassing familiarity. And it is very stupid if the game happens to send you to heaven. I wonder if there really is such a locality. I've been thinking lately I should like to go there. Things don't seem to agree with me very well here. I've closed my books, walked the tier garden threadbare, slept 12 hours out of 24, do everything I've been told to do, with no result whatever except to grow duller." The young man yawned as he spoke. "Do excuse me. I've come to such a pass that I am not able to look at one in the face without yawning. All things considered, I'm afraid I shouldn't be any better off in heaven. I'm afraid I couldn't stand the people. There must be so many of them. I want to get away from people." "I know exactly where to send you," said Miss Valentine. "I was thinking about it when you came in. It isn't heaven, but it's very near it. It also begins with H. And you are sure to like it. That is, unless you object to the ghost." "Oh, not in the least. Only, is the rest of it all right? Things are not generally. Either the drainage is bad, or there's a haunted room, and everyone who sleeps in it dies. And of course no one can help sleeping in it just to see how it's going to work." "Nothing of the kind," returned Miss Valentine. "The drainage is excellent. And as for the haunted room, I once shared it half a summer with a niece and namesake of mine, and we were never troubled by any unusual occurrence, and we are both in excellent health and likely to remain so. The ghost is reported to have a Mona Lisa face, to be dressed in black, with something white and fluffy at the neck and sleeves, gold bracelets, a necklace, a ring of black pearls, and she carries a rose. If her appearance means death or misfortune, the rose is white. If she is only straying about in a friendly way, the rose is red. The place is called Halden, the hillside. I've taken the precaution to state vaguely that it is in the neighborhood of Zurich. I want to do all in my power to keep the spot unspoiled. There is so very little left in Switzerland that is not tired of being looked at. The trees are tired, and the grass, and the waterfalls. But here is a sweet hidden-away nook where everything is fresh as before the days of foreign travel. I'm going to provide you with the directions for finding it." She sat down at the writing desk and presently gave a slip of paper to Morris Davidson, who carefully put it in his pocketbook. "The castle of the Halden," Miss Valentine continued, "belonged to a certain countess by the name of Maria Regina. There is a tradition that one night a mist coming down from the mountains concealed the castle from the village, and when it lifted, behold, the countess and her entire household had vanished forever, and not a word was ever heard from them again. The ghost lady is supposed to be a sister of the Countess Maria Regina, and in some way connected with the death of a young Austrian officer, who figures as a lover in the story. Just whose lover no one seems to know, but it is surmised of Maria Regina's daughter, said to be a very aristocratic and haughty person. The castle remained closed after this mysterious occurrence for about 200 years, and then an enterprising Swiss German had it put in order for a summer hotel. What are you doing? I believe you are making extracts from my address book. Now that is something I never allow. I like to give out information discriminatingly, with personal explanations." The young man showed what he had written. "Just a hint or two for Italy," he said. "I may go down there next week. If I do, I shall certainly turn aside and tarry a little at your Halden. I should like to try whether your ghost lady would lead me into an adventure." Miss Valentine did not see Morris Davidson again, but a few weeks later she received a letter bearing a Swiss postmark. "Dear Miss Valentine, I am here, and in order to give complete proof of it, I sacrifice my prejudice and write on ruled paper, with purple ink and an unpleasant pen, that it might be all of the Halden. The place is exactly what I wanted and needed. I'm so delighted to have it to myself. I'm the only guest in the castle, the only stranger in town. I came to stay a day. I intend now to stay a week. Yesterday, my first whole day was perfect. I went by train to Mühlhorn and walked from there to the Wallenstadt, came back for dinner, and in the afternoon climbed the hill to Amden, where I found a hepatisch in bloom and had a beautiful view of the sunset. This morning there is a mist on the mountains, which is slowly rising, so I am using the time for letter writing. Mountain climbing is not yet inviting, owing to the snow, but on the whole, the season of the year is not at all unfavorable. The loneliness is what I like best. The people do not interest me. I avoid them, and must appear in their eyes even more deluded than I am to come to this secluded spot at this unseasonable moment, and be satisfied with my own society. No, not my own society, but that of these kindly brotherly mountains. From a prosaic pedant, I can almost feel myself becoming an ecclesiastical hermit, and my soul is getting ready to smooth itself out a long cramped scroll, freshening and fluttering in the wind. What a solid satisfaction it is to have a few days free from railroad travel. I have made a roundabout journey, come here by way of Dresden, Leipzig, Cologne, Bonn, Frankfurt, Heidelberg, Strasbourg, Freiburg, Basel, and Zurich. It was all pleasant, but I am glad it is over. Please never advertise the Halden as a health resort. Let it remain a complete secret between us two, so that when we wish to leave everything and hermitize, we may have the opportunity. If it were not for betraying the secret, I would like to recommend the castle for its generosity. At breakfast, I have put beside my plate a 5-pound loaf of bread, one slice of which is 15 inches long by 6 inches wide, and thick ad libitum dimensions, the delicacy of which even a Prussian soldier would call into question. I haven't attempted to tell you what I think of your Halden. It is impossible. I simply give myself over to a few days of happiness and rest. All too soon I shall have to face the busy world again. Yours, most gratefully, Morris Davidson. P.S. I have not yet seen the ghost lady. I thought I heard her footsteps last night in the hall, and a rustling at my door. I opened it, half expecting to find a rose upon the threshold. I found nothing, saw nothing. The letter was dated March 13th, and contained a pressed hepatica. Some 2 months later, another letter came. It said, "I'm still here." My Italian journey melted into a Swiss sojourn. If I stay much longer, I shall not dare to go away. I feel so safe under the care of these wonderful mountains. What word has one to describe them, with their fullness of content, of majesty and mystery? I go daily up the time-worn steps behind the castle, throw myself on the grass, count the poplar trees rising from the plain below, try to make out where the earth ends and heaven begins, as the white May clouds meet the snowdrifts on the mountain tops. I am working a little again, but tramping a good deal more. I have not been so happy since I was a boy. In a certain sense, I have died here unaided by the apparition with the rose, unless, indeed, she has come in my sleep, and that, of course, would not count. I have died because surely all that death can ever mean is the putting away of something no longer needed, and therefore we die daily, one day most of all. But although I have never seen the ghost lady, I have every reason to have perfect faith in her existence. I was talking with our landlord's aged mother about it today. She carefully closed the door when the conversation turned in this direction, begging me never to mention the subject before the servants, and then, in a half-whisper, she gave me exactly the same description that you did in Berlin. Early in June, a third letter came. Will you believe me when I say I have not only seen her, but them? I have sat with them and talked with them. Them, the lost ladies of the hillside, with the Countess Maria Regina, the proud daughter, the mysterious sister? No, certainly you would not believe me. I write nothing here of the physical results of my stay. Enough that I am ready for work, that I love my fellow men, that I no longer dread to go to heaven for fear of their society, that I have formed an intimate friendship with the village weaver and priest and postman, that when we part, as we shall tomorrow, it will be affectionately and regretfully. All this you know or have guessed. What I'm about to tell you, you do not know and can never guess. It has been raining for a week. You remember what it is like here when it rains? How damp, sticky, discouraging. How cold the stone floor. How wet the foundation splashes when one goes through the court to dinner. I was driven to take walks in the hall outside my room by way of exercise, and thus discovered, in a certain dark corner, a low door to which I eventually succeeded in finding a key. This door led me to an unused tower dimly lit, hung with cobwebs and filled with old red velvet furniture. I sat down on a sofa, and before long became conscious that I was being gazed upon by a haughty young woman with an aristocratic nose, large dark eyes, hair caught back by tortoiseshell combs, under a peculiar headdress, having a gleam of gold directly on top. Her gown was of dark green, with white puffs let into the sleeves below the elbows. Around her tapered waist was a narrow belt of jewels. The front of her corsage was also trimmed with jewels, but the most distinctive feature of her costume consisted in a floating scarf of old rose, worn like the frontispiece lady in some volume of keepsake or token. Imagine meeting such a being as this unexpectedly in the long-closed tower room of a castle after a week of Swiss rain. I forgot time, weather, locality, individuality. I began to think, in fact, that I myself might be the young Austrian officer who was murdered. Presently I noticed that my haughty young woman had a chaperone, a lady wearing a light green picturesque-shaped hood, a kerchief of the same shade bordered with gold tassels, a necklace of dark beads from which hung a crucifix. She was not pretty, but had very plump red cheeks and held a little dog. I learned on nearer acquaintance that this was the Countess Maria Regina, and as she then appeared, so she had looked in the year 1695. We sat for a while, silently regarding each other. Maria Regina's cheeks seemed all the more time to grow deeper in color, the point in which the green hood terminated more and more distinctly, the little dog making ready to bark, the daughter with the floating scarf prouder and prouder, and I, as the Austrian officer, hardly daring to move, lest the sister with the rose should join the group, and that perhaps be the end of me, when I had the happy thought of going in search of her, and thus breaking the spell, and preventing the mischief which might occur should she come uninvited. I left the sofa and peered about, and could scarcely believe my eyes as I came upon her standing by the tower window, pearls, black gown, lace frills, and rose in hand. All there, although very indistinct and shadowy, the Mona Lisa face looked discreetly towards the wall. Now, my dear Miss Valentine, having related this remarkable adventure, I am about to relate one even more remarkable. It occurred that this very evening, between 7 and 8 o'clock, I had been off for the day with the village goat boy and his flock, the dear creatures who have never had their bells removed or been painted over with Swiss landscapes and offered for sale as souvenir bric-a-brac. I had patted the goats good night and goodbye, and going up to my room, thrown myself into a reclining chair, deliciously tired as one can only be after a long day of Swiss mountain life. The door was open, the room full of pleasant twilight, the three ladies safe in their tower close by. I was thinking and wondering about them when I heard a rustling at the opposite end of the room. Now, as you know, the place being spacious as a banqueting hall, objects at a distance, especially in the half-light, might easily deceive one. This was what I thought of as I saw by the window a girlish form in black, with something white at the neck and sleeves. I rubbed my hands across my eyes, looked again, and lo, my vision had vanished completely, noiselessly, without moving from the spot, for there had not been time to move. I sprang up and crossed the room. On the window ledge was a rose, and the rose was red. Another curious thing, the ghost lady of the tower, according to her own authority, was 49 in the year 1698. I don't know how ghosts manage about their age, but my ghost of this evening couldn't have been over 19. Well, I've told my story. I wait for you to suggest the explanation of the second part. The first will explain itself when I bring to you, in a few days at most, and with hearty consent, the approval of the castle's present proprietor, the Countess Maria Regina, the haughty daughter, the ghost lady herself, as found on the rainy day in the tower. I am so well, so happy, so rich in life and thought and hopes. I owe it all to you, and I thank you again, and still again, and sign my last letter from the Halden with the sweet salutation of the country. Grüß Gott. Devotedly yours, Morris Davidson. Midnight, June the 1st. In the same mail, Miss Valentine received a letter from her niece and namesake, who was traveling with friends from Munich to Geneva. My dearest aunt, I can't possibly go to sleep without telling you about this beautiful day. Of course you knew we were going through Zurich, but did you know we were going to give ourselves the joy of stopping for a little glimpse of the Halden country? We took a very early train this morning, and without waiting at the village, went directly on that glorious 10-mile walk to Abstalden, and dined at the inn Zum Hirschen. You remember it, there where we tried to express ourselves once in verse. The pasture land stretched far overhead, and blooming pathways heavenward led, as on the best of the land we fed, at the pleasant inn Zum Hirschen. Above us the sky a wondrous bloom, below a lake of marvelous hue, and glad seemed life the whole way through, that day as we dined zum Hirschen. And that's how life seemed today. But we were wise enough not to attempt poetry. When I got back to the village at night, we climbed up to the castle for supper. I did so hope to see your Mr. Davidson. Unfortunately, he'd gone off for a long tramp. You should hear die alte Großmutter talk about him. She can't begin to say flattering things enough. And where do you think I went, Aunt Olivia? Into our old room, to be sure. Your Mr. Davidson's room now. The door was open, so I entered. Oh, the view from that window. The snow-tipped mountains over across the quiet lake. The little village, the castle garden, with its terraces and bowers. I wanted you so much. Suddenly I had a feeling as if someone were coming, and very gently I pushed aside the panel door, closed it behind me, and descended in the dark. Not a moment too soon, as it proved, because, firstly, when I looked back, there was a light in the room above, and secondly, the rest of the party had gone to the station, expecting to find me there. And I arrived just in time to prevent us from missing the train. Oh, dear Aunt Olivia, your Mr. Davidson has made some wonderful discovery. Die alte Großmutter couldn't resist telling me, although she wouldn't tell me what it was. She said he was intending to bring it or them to you as a present, and he might be wishing to make it a surprise, and it wasn't for her to go and spoil it all. Now what do you suppose it can be? I am consumed with curiosity, and could shed tears of envy. He doesn't know a word about the secret stairway. Die alte Großmutter hadn't thought to mention it. Imagine that. So exactly like people who possess unusual things not to appreciate them. When you build your house, do put in a secret stairway. They are so convenient. The castle garden today was a perfect wilderness of roses. We brought as many as we could back to Zurich. The one I left on the window ledge of our old room, an unsigned offering from a past to a present occupant. It was a red rose, too, and therefore of particularly good omen at Halden. I wonder if your Mr. Davidson has found it yet, and is asking himself how it came. And now, my dearest Aunt Olivia, I kiss you good night, and end my letter with the sweet salutation which we have been hearing all day from the peasant folk. Grüß Gott. Lovingly, your namesake niece, Olivia. Midnight, June 1st. Well, my darlings, I hope you enjoyed that, and I thank you for coming to visit me here. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this, and I will see you next time. So quoth this raven.